During the darkest era in the history of our country, many Christian slave owners would use the Bible to support slavery. But the question remains, what does the Bible teach on this subject of slavery? That's coming up next on The Beat. Hey everyone, my name is Alan Parr. Thank you all so much for visiting my channel. Here on The Beat, we release a new video every single Tuesday, and today we are answering the controversial and many times misunderstood question, does the Bible support slavery? And so what I want to do is I want to give you 7 facts and show you how slavery in the Bible was very different than the slavery that was practiced in our country. Number 1, God did not create slavery, but rather He regulated it. And so just like there were laws about murder and theft and polygamy and divorce, God knew that the hearts of people were evil, and so He had to establish laws that would regulate slavery and ensure the proper treatment of slaves. And so the very fact that there is a law about it at all indicates that God did not approve of it, and it wasn't His perfect will, because God did not establish laws to regulate or limit good, only to regulate evil. Number 2, the purpose of slavery in the Bible, as we're getting ready to see, was actually designed to help the poor survive, which was the exact opposite of what was practiced in our country for nearly 400 years. This leads me to my third point, which is that in the Hebrew culture, slavery was primarily volitional. So in other words, if a person was too poor to provide for themselves, or if they were in debt, they would oftentimes hire themselves out to someone who was richer who could provide for them or pay off all of their debt. Others would choose to be slaves to ensure that all of their basic needs were met by their master. Either way, slavery in the Hebrew culture was volitional, which leads me to my fourth point, which is that kidnapping, according to Exodus chapter 21, in any and all circumstances was completely and totally outlawed and punishable by death. And so this idea that you could take somebody against their will and make them your slave was not only against the law, but it was outside of the will of God. Number 5, slavery was limited to just 6 years. And so the idea here is that it was never God's heart for the rich to overtake or control the poor. On the contrary, this system was set up so that slaves or people who were in debt could work off their debt in a safe and loving environment. And then after 6 years, they were not only to go free, but also the master was commanded as an act of kindness to put something in their hands and send them on their way, which was in direct contrast to what has been practiced in our country. Number 6, slave owners were to treat slaves with respect. The Bible says in Leviticus chapter 25 that slave owners were commanded to treat slaves as employees or hired workers in terms of the type of work that they gave them. Not only this, but if a slave owner was guilty of killing a slave, he would be facing severe punishment himself. Third of all, they were commanded to maintain the family unity. And so if a slave came to you and he was already married with children, after the 6 years were up, he and his wife and his children were to go free, which was in direct contrast to what was happening in our country. Finally, God made it very clear that a master was buying simply the services and not the servant, because it's very clear that no man can own another man like they can own an animal, because all of us were created in the image of God and all of us belong to God as servants. And number 7, slavery was never based on race. And so nowhere in the Bible does it condone enslaving a race of people, rather only individuals, and that on a voluntary basis. So does the Bible make concessions for and have laws that regulate and ensure the proper treatment of slaves? I would have to say yes. But does it support the degradation or the mistreatment of slaves that we saw in our country for nearly 400 years? Absolutely not. If you found this video helpful in any way, feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Check out some of the other videos while you are there. This is a difficult and controversial subject, and it's clear that we can make the Bible say anything we want it to say if we take certain verses out of context. And so I would love to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comment section below. I'm also going to leave a couple of links that you can look at to get more information on this subject. Hey, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Beat.